all of our friends on our well chat this morning. We're so glad that you joined us. And still in these days that are unprecedented, and we don't know what tomorrow really looks like or will look like, but I'm grateful that we know the one who does know tomorrow and holds tomorrow in his hands. And it's so fun to be walking through Revelation right now as a church. And our memory verse for the week is Revelation 1:8. And it says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, says the Lord God, the one who is, the one who was, and the one who is coming, the Almighty. And I just think about some of those names that Jesus is calling himself here in this verse. And part of that just explains to us his omnipotence and his omnipresence in our life. And he is the all-powerful one. And he is the one that is God of today and of tomorrow. So we do not have to fear tomorrow or what it may hold. And we don't have to be anxious. We do not have to worry. And I'm excited to have a very sweet, dear friend of mine with us today. And I just really truly feel like she's one of those Proverbs 31 women, and how she prepares for her household, and she's prepared for tomorrow. And I believe that this is a woman who could look at tomorrow and she can laugh. She can laugh because she knows the one that holds tomorrow, and she's made preparations for it. But I just cannot wait for the rest of you to get to know my friend Nicki Jones a little bit better today. But Nicki, thank you for being with us and sharing your heart. But would you just tell my friends a little bit more about Nicki Jones?
Sure. But first, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. You and Jeff and Southside have been such a blessing in our life, for our family. So we surely wouldn't be where we are if it weren't for you guys. So, but I'm Nicki. My husband and I, Josh, have been married for almost 9 years. This year will be 9 years. We live in Jefferson with our 2 little girls. We have Ella Kate, who is our wild and sassy and independent 5-year-old. She will be going to kindergarten on Friday, Lord willing. And then Anna Grace, who is 10 months, and she's proving to maybe be the wilder of the 2. We'll see. So it's kind of wild and crazy. She's into everything, on the move now. So that's good. Like I said, we live here in Jefferson. We're both from Jackson County, so we've been here our whole lives. Josh works for the railroad, so he has a hectic and ever-changing schedule that we never really know what to expect. And I am a licensed physical therapist assistant, and I've been doing that for about 10 years, most of that time in the outpatient setting, and then with a couple of years in the skilled nursing setting. So that's been good and a huge blessing for us. So yeah, it's good. That's who we are.
So 2 little girls, and they look very much like their mommy to me. They're beautiful, and I love the way you describe Miss Ella Kate. She is so fun to be around and to hang out with. Sassy to the core. It's great. Nothing wrong with being sassy. Well, so tell us what life is like as a mom daily of 2 little girls.
Yeah, it's, like I said, crazy and hectic, and especially with it just being summer break and then the whole COVID thing. So it's crazy. There's no routine. There's no schedule right now. So we're just all kind of in survival mode, and we have been for a few months, just kind of getting used to everything, and especially having, Anna's 10 months, but just having that kind of new baby again. So it's fun. It's awesome to watch them together, even though they're 5 years apart. Their personalities, they're so much alike, and they just have a great bond already. So I'm excited to kind of watch that grow in the next few years. So right now, yeah, we're just trying to make it and survive. The good thing is with both of them, they're great sleepers. So I'm able to get up in the mornings and kind of get started and have my quiet time and shower and all that before they're up and running, because once they're up and it's chaos. So yes, but it's good. We're still adjusting to everything, to having Anna Grace, to being out for the summer, and then now Josh's work schedule has changed again. So it's a little crazy, but we're making it.
Being flexible is a key, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
So yours are 5 years apart. Ours are 5 years apart too. So Ann's is 21. Amory, today is his birthday. So today he turned 16, and then Abigail, she's 10 and will soon be 11 in November. And it's pretty good timing when it comes to your finances. You about get one off your insurance, and the other one hops on and gets a car, and then you've got one hopping on a cell phone, and one can start paying for her own. So the Lord, He knows exactly
Yes.
what we need when we need it. And I love the fact that your girls are sleepers, and a good mama can train her baby how to sleep well through the night. But knowing that you've got to get up and put that air mask on first, and
Right.
get yourself prepared for the day, so that you can be prepared and have the strength that you need and nourishment to take care of them throughout the day. That's so important, and good for you for making that a priority, and setting your day before theirs get started. So share with us, that's a mommy tip in and of itself, but share with us how you survive a day being at home. You're a very career driven woman, I can tell, just by knowing you and knowing that you have a very strong work ethic in your life. But how you're at home now in the season of life and raising two little girls. Share with the rest of us what we can do, and make life successful by being at home still, and with these little girls, our little ones.
Yes. The biggest thing, best, I guess, advice tip that I can give is grace. Like you have to have so much grace. And I think about it from the perspective of, obviously God gives us way more grace than we deserve every single day. We fail him daily, and he provides grace upon grace upon grace. And then I think about that with Ella Kate especially, and even you can see it with the baby. When mom loses her cool and freaks out and things just aren't going well, once you take that step back, and I go back and I'll, apologize and talk to Ella Kate, she just provides grace, just like God does, over and over and over again. So I have to realize that I have to give that to, obviously, the girls, to Josh, because life's crazy when he's not here. But you have to give yourself grace. You can't set your expectations too high. You can't expect too much. And that's hard for me, being I'm very much type A personality. I want order, and I want schedule and routine, and I like control, and I like things to be the way I want them to be. And that's, you can't expect perfection when you're dealing with anybody, and let alone, a 5-year-old and a 10-month-old. So that's probably the biggest lesson that I've learned. If I had to have a word or something to kind of define 2020, for me, it has been grace.
That is really good, because we are human, and for us to say that we are perfect is just fake. And that is something that's a value, a real rule that we have at Southside, is to just be real, because fake is exhausting. And knowing that God gives us grace, and that we can give it to others, and and even knowing our children have to give it to us too. That is a good word for 2020, and for being a mom, being at home with your children, because we would all be lying if we said we never lost it.
Right.
Don't go our way, and I think we revert back to our 2-year-old selves, and we might pitch a fit every once in a while, and that's okay. And we can ask for forgiveness and grace from those around us. Well, I know that just to see you and Josh doing life together, y'all seem to have a wonderful marriage. I'm sure it's like the rest of us, it's not perfect, but you do set a really good example for those around you, and just having a loving marriage and supporting one another. Tell us how you and Josh met, and remind us again how long you've been married, and maybe a tip or so about having a successful marriage.
Okay. So Josh and I met in 2007. We were young. I was finishing up my senior year of high school. He had just graduated the year before. I went to Jefferson. He went to Jackson County, so just a few miles away, but we had never met, but we had all kinds of mutual friends. So we were at an event one Saturday evening. He was there, I was there, just kind of, I guess, the right place at the right time. We met, and we have been stuck together ever since. But like I said, that was 2007, and then we got married in October of 11, so coming up 9 years this year. And yeah, it looks, and it is, we have a great marriage now, but it hasn't always been that way. The first couple of years were rough, and by the grace of God, we survived through that somehow. Sometimes I still wonder. But we both came from divorced families, so we had no idea what healthy marriage looked like, and definitely didn't. We were both kind of in and out of church, didn't grow up, continue and have that foundation. So not having a relationship with the Lord, obviously we had no idea what a biblical marriage looked like by any means. So the first couple of years were rough, but like I say, we made it. And if you've talked to us much, our kind of line that we tell people about our first 2 years of marriage is, really, it's sad, but we talked about divorce more than we talked about what we were going to eat. It was just, crazy, unhealthy, not good. So finally made it through that. And then Ella Kate was born. And then about 5 months, when she was about 5 months old, is when we came to Southside. And that was kind of our turning point. We built, got a relationship with the Lord individually first and foremost. And then we were able to bring that into our marriage and really strengthen that, figure out what marriage was supposed to be like, how it was supposed to be, that it can be healthy and happy. So that was the big thing for us. Made it through that. So I definitely think, obviously, a relationship with the Lord and having Him at the center of your marriage is obviously the most important thing to keep things going and make things work, because it's not easy. It's a battle every single day. So that, and then another big thing I think for us is communication. And we also learned that through having kids, because even before Ella Kate was born and before we ever thought about having kids, we always talked about that, like how we would parent and how we would do things. And we really got on the same page about that. So that has kind of been our example of, if we can communicate so well about that and co-parent, and it works so well in our parenting because just of communication, if we communicate about everything else, then that'll help those areas as well. So that's probably our two big things, is a relationship with Christ and communication.
That is great. I love it how you talked about just being in the right place at the right time, and the stars aligned and the heavens opened up, and God said, I love you, Alpha. I love you, Nicki. I love you, Josh. He brought you together at that perfect time. And it does it. That first year of marriage, first couple of years, it takes a little bit of learning from each other, and being able to learn that there is a God out there who brought you together for a reason and a purpose, and wants to use you in your marriage for a purpose. I think that if we can see beyond that marriage is not just for us. It is for us, and God ordained marriage. But I believe that He also uses it to show others around us what a relationship with Him looks like, what the bride looks like with Christ. And if we can live out our marriages that way, where we're both putting Christ as center of our individual lives, it's the center of our marriage as well. And that's something else we talk about at Southside too, is that Jesus is the center of everything that we do. And so when He's the center of our heart and our life and our personal relationship with Him, and then He's going to be the center of our marriage and our home as well. And so, and what a beautiful picture your girls are going to have. I can say that legacy for me and my family, a godly legacy was not there. And so for you to be able to leave that to your girls and to their families, it's priceless and so valuable. And they'll be so appreciative that you and Josh found your way, that you made God priority and your relationship with Him. It changes everything. Well, I know a little bit about your backstory during the past few months and how COVID has hit, and that it has had an impact on you personally and your career and your family. And I would just love for you to share that journey with us and how you've dealt with it, how you've been able to make it through COVID.
Yes. So early on in COVID, so March 20th, actually, so we're just a couple of weeks into when it really blew up here. Um, I got furloughed from work. So that has been a big thing. I worked just part time, having both of the girls at home. But that was a big thing for me because I've always been, before we got married, before we had kids, like my career has always been there. That's just all I've ever known. That's all I've ever done. So that was a big hit for us. With the, I think I could have handled, or I would have handled it better had I known, like, I need the precise end dates. Like if I know, okay, you're going to be furloughed, but you're coming back on June 10th, like that, that helps me, just having that concrete something to look forward to. And I didn't have that. And I still don't, because I'm still not back at work. So we're a little over 4 months into that. So the big thing, thankfully, we're so blessed. And I knew financially that we would be okay, that we have a long history with that as well. I knew that that wouldn't be the problem because God has always provided, and I know He will always provide financially. So my biggest thing was, I'm not going to be able to come to work and see my coworkers every day. I'm not going to be able to get out of the house. And it's so good for me to have that get out of the house, adult interaction, conversation. And it's good for the girls because, you know, we had a great babysitter for Anna Grace, and then Ella Kate was in pre-K. So that was a good thing for all of us, just to have that time apart, and then, you know, keep control and keep the chaos down. So that was really hard. That was probably the hardest part of switching into that. You're going to be at home now. And then, because it was, I think, like the next week after I got furloughed is when all the schools closed. So then Ella Kate came home. So we're home together all the time, that's fine. And that's my calling, and I'm a mom. But COVID made it worse because it's not like, okay, you're at home now, but you can go out, you can do this. No, everything's closed. Like you can't be close to people. So that was really hard, adjusting to that and just making that change. And that's when I really had to step up and be more diligent of, okay, I have to put God first. I have to start my day with Him every single day, because if not, I don't think any of us are going to survive, me or the kids. So that He has just been there, and I've had to be so much more attentive to my relationship with Him to make it work, to be able to stay at home and keep everything floating and going, because Josh's schedule is crazy. He can work 40 hours a week. He can work 80 hours a week. And then now, just like the last couple of weeks, he has taken a different position at work. So he's out of town. He might be gone 2 or 3 nights a week. So it's really been an adjustment, but we're working together and learning and making it. So hopefully we're getting to the end of this.
That's good. Well, I've seen Josh in and out of town or around town a little bit over COVID. And he shared with me that you were home with the girls and just having to deal with that. So I know you said you're found yourself at home and you weren't even used to that really, because you were used to being out working, and then the girls were both home with you too, and then we can't entertain them outside of our homes, So did you find something that was fun for y'all to do at home while Josh was not, and kind of how you dealt with this being inside or on your few acres that you have in
Yes.
your place?
That was the key, was getting outside. And I thought about that very early on, because, I think it was this year, January, February, like it rained every single day. And I remember having that thought of, I'm so glad it's not doing that now, because we have to be able to go and get outside and entertain them somehow. So we bought a small pool. So that has been a huge entertainment for the girls. So that's been good. And yeah, just finding things here. We would go wherever we could, like in town, I would take Ella Kate. We would find an empty parking lot so she could ride her bike and we could just walk and be outside. So I think outside was the biggest thing that kind of saved our sanity.
Yes, having some fresh air. That's
Yeah.
key, right? Well, I know that you were able to say something, Nicki, during telling me about being furloughed and during this time of COVID and being back at home. You mentioned that the finances were really not your worry. And I'll tell you that's something that a lot of people are fearful of during COVID and losing their jobs. So why was that not fearful to you?
Well, like I said, we've had a long history with that. We're big Dave Ramsey advocates. We love Dave Ramsey. That has been his teachings, and all of his stuff has just been a huge blessing in our life. Over really the past 3 years that we've really kind of dug in and followed his teachings and really taken control of our finances. So the biggest thing that we learned probably about 3 years ago when we first took the course, I think the biggest thing that he said initially that really took me back, and I had to really like, whoa, once I got a hold of the fact that everything is God's. It's not our money. We're just the managers. It all belongs to God anyway. I think once I realized that, then that kind of made me see, okay, like I know he's going to provide. We might not have every little want, but we have everything we need, and he always provides. And we've been through job loss before, way back early on before kids, when I was actually in college and Josh was the only one working, and he got laid off back in the 2008 debacle. So we learned from that. And then also, I think not necessarily financially, but I look back on the early years of our marriage that I talked about. And I really realized that if he can fix that, then he's going to take care of everything. I don't have anything to worry about. So all of that, just the faith and the knowing that he is our provider and he's going to make a way and make things possible, is the biggest thing. And then also, because of Dave Ramsey, having that emergency fund, having, things in place, things back last year, I think it was, we got like vehicles paid off and all of that. So we had no debt when all of this happened, and we had our emergency fund saved up. So it's like, I can breathe and know that it's going to be okay. Like, we're going to have to make some changes and we're going to have to watch what we spend and that kind of thing, but we're not going to lose anything. And that was just a good place to be when something like this happens.
That is great. So I know that, so you and Josh have taken, for those of you listening and hearing the name Dave Ramsey, he has a course that we offer at Southside called Financial Peace. Is that correct? Am I calling the course right?
Financial Peace University. Mm-hmm.
And Josh and Nicki enrolled into this course, and then they have led small groups through Financial Peace. So I know that they have studied and they have learned and they have implemented things that Dave Ramsey has taught them through Financial Peace. So I don't know if you can, but like for those of us who've never been through Dave Ramsey Financial Peace, is there just a couple of major things that we could think about and possibly implement into our finances and budgeting immediately? That you would find that has been valuable and important to you and Josh and your family financially. If you could share that with us.
Mm-hmm. The biggest thing, like I talked about a little bit, was the emergency fund, just having that basis. And Dave Ramsey recommends when you're in debt and, living paycheck to paycheck like most people are, just to get that, even if it's $1,000, into that small emergency fund. So that way, if something happens, if the air conditioning goes out or the car breaks down or something like that, you just have that to fall back on and you don't go further in the hole, so to speak, with that. So emergency fund is the biggest thing. And then next for us, and you even said it, was the budget, like having a written budget, have a plan, know before the month begins, like what you have coming in, know where it's going. And Dave Ramsey always says, give every dollar a name. That way, before the month begins, like where your money's going, because it's easy to get caught up and, going shopping or doing this or home repairs or whatever. And then you look back and you're like, where did our money go? Like, why do we have nothing left? So that the biggest thing is having a written budget. And if you're married, of course, you have to be on the same page. It will not work if you're not. I tried to start Dave Ramsey in 2013 and Josh was not on board and it did not work. So we officially both got on board and really started in 2017. So yeah, emergency fund, budget, and be on the same page.
That is awesome. That is great. And so how does Dave Ramsey and just the things that you've learned, how do you find that that teaching lines up with biblical teaching and being a good steward over your finances, over the Lord's money?
Yes, exactly. That's the biggest thing from all of it is it's God's money. And you have to understand that and realize that, or you can't put that into play and make it all work. And we're called in the Bible to be good stewards and be obedient. That's what he wants us to do. So obedience for us, a big thing was the tithe. That was huge for us. That was a huge argument even in the beginning. And I'll never forget the first Sunday we came to the South Side, Jeff's message was on the tithe. And I sat in my chair and I thought, Pastor Jeff just ruined it. Josh will never come back. Like, this is it. We're done. So thankfully he didn't. And before we got out of the parking lot, he's like, okay, when are we going back? So that was just having that understanding of what the tithe is, that God doesn't need our money, but he just wants us to be obedient, that it's all his anyways. I'm giving it to you, but I want you to walk in faith and be obedient with it. So that, and then just when we're faithful in the little things, he always provides more. When we do what we're supposed to with the little bit that he may give us initially, he always makes a way and provides more. And Josh and I have seen that over and over and over again in our finances. When things just literally, when we first started Financial Peace, and you have all these little projects to do and written budgets and this and that, and we would write our budget out and we would get 3/4 of the way done and we're out of money, but there's still stuff left. So things that just did not add up on paper, God provides and makes a way for. And I always tell everybody in our Financial Peace classes that the first thing I do, I take the tithe right off the top. Like, I have my numbers in front of me and I take the tithe and I stop. Like, I subtract that out and I stop. And I get on my phone on the app and I go ahead and do the tithe, and then that's out of our checking account right then. And then I move forward. I don't even look at anything, like, because I was always afraid in the beginning that I would get to the bottom and it wouldn't add up. So I would take that tithe away. Be like, oh, that's extra money we can have. The church really doesn't need that anyway. So I just completely cut that out. And that has changed so much, just seeing how he is faithful. And then that kind of opens that door and allows you to be that cheerful giver. Like, it's exciting. You want to give because you know that just by doing that off the top, he's going to provide.
That's great. That is great. And I'll just say, for someone, Jeff and I have been married for 23 years. And even before we were married, we were individually tithing. And we've just learned that you cannot outgive God. And we're his children. And when we trust him enough to be obedient with our finances, he's going to take care of us. And again, we're just reminded, it's just like the promises that he gives us in the Bible, that we don't have to worry, that if he provides for the birds and the flowers of the fields, he is going to provide for us too. And I know during times like COVID, when you've been furloughed, or for Jeff and I working in the ministry, all of our eggs are in one basket, and we just trust the Lord. And I will say that it's not always easy, that doubt comes in, Satan comes in and tries to feed you with those lies, but God is always faithful. That is one thing I can never say, is that he's been unfaithful to us, and we've just been obedient. We've trusted him with our tithe and with our offerings, and we've always been able to, he's always provided for us. Yeah. So he is truly, truly faithful. Well, before we go, I just wonder if God has been marinating in your soul. You've had some quiet time, you've had some reflection time, I'm sure, some time with your girls, which is priceless. I know that in a normal year you would have continued to work, but you were able to be there with Anna Grace when she was a baby and allow her and Ella Kate to form a bond that they may not have been able to do during this time of COVID. But, has God marinated something in your soul that he's taught you that you could maybe share with us before we go?
Well, I'm really still trying to figure it out, even though, I've had 4 months and a lot of quiet time. There's just so much uncertainty with my job in general, with just other things that are going on in that profession, changes and Medicare reimbursement changes, those kind of things that I don't know. I know the company that I got furloughed from, they're trying to eliminate my position across the board within the company. And then that, because of those changes financially, other companies are starting to look at that. So I don't know what the future looks like with that. And that's kind of scary and nerve wracking for me because that's all I've ever known. That's all I've ever done. So God's been working on me and letting me know that this isn't it, but maybe I'm preparing you for something different. And I don't know what that is yet. And that's frustrating sometimes, to not just the unknown. But I know that I'm not going to sit at home forever. So whether it's working from home doing something or whatever, I'm not sure what he's working, but I feel like he's just keeps stirring and just keeps telling me that there's something more. This isn't it. You're not going to be at home alone forever. But I don't really know what that is. So I'm just trying to be faithful and obedient and just keep, working at that. Just keep praying and seeking and trying to be still and make sure I'm not missing it.
I think about that, about just seeking him, and just that's what we all need to be doing. That's what we should have been doing even before COVID. And I'm not saying that you weren't, but I know that we probably have risen to a whole new level of seeking God in his face and his perfect will for us. And I have no doubt that he has blessed you with a very gifted talent, and with your hands. You've had your hands on my neck and my back before. And I know that he gives us those gifts and talents and passions in our life so that we can live out our purpose that he has given and God ordained for us here on this earth. So I am sure that he has something very special in store for you, as well as all of our other friends out there on the Well Chat today. And I would just like to say to everyone to keep seeking him, and he is faithful, and he will be there for you every day that we seek him, and he will bring his answers to surface, and we will find out those answers soon enough. But ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Nicki. We love you, and we just pray that everybody has a great week.